5 salutes for 5 games. New York Knicks, 4 games to 1 over the Cleveland Cavs. CT with EJ here to celebrate. Big series win. Onto the Eastern Conference semis. Next round awaits. We await to see. Describe how you're feeling, EJ. We may have lost EJ for a hot minute, but nonetheless, the chat's going to turn up. CT here, the chop up with EJ as the New York Knicks advance to the second round, beating the Cleveland Cavaliers on the road. EJ's back in the building. How are we feeling, EJ?
I'm totally sorry about that. Actually, you know what? CT and I planned that. We were just mimicking what the Cleveland fans were doing with 3 minutes left in the ball game. So that was me pretending to be a Cleveland fan with 2 or 3 minutes left during the game. No, but bro, like I'm truly very excited. If you are a Knicks fan of a certain generation, last time I went off on a whole little mini rant about players that we've seen come and go in the past, 20 years, with the exception of about a good 2-3 years of Carmelo and the Carmelo version of the Knicks. We've seen some really bad teams. We've seen some really difficult teams. We've seen some really average teams. Tonight is a night to celebrate, because we're in the second round of the playoffs. And not only are we in the second round of the playoffs, but we in here decisively. We beat Cleveland so decisively. Cleveland fans turned on their own home squad. So that's a statement. Knicks fans, a lot of the haters are going to be really quiet. Whatever social media you're going to be on, they're going to be really quiet tonight. I was checking my socials, I was checking my mentions, and there are a lot of people who really, I guess they went to bed really early, but I want to be up for a while. CT, how you feeling, my friend?
Man, I'm absolutely buzzing right now. Knicks fan base worldwide is buzzing. But shout out to everyone that believed. I predicted Knicks in 6, but 5, 6 is close enough. But I'm just so glad, I said how impressed I would be, EJ, if they closed it out on the road.
Yes, sir.
And that's exactly what they did. I think they just started really well. Shout out to Julius Randle for his first part of the game, establishing dominance physically. RJ Barrett continued great form. IQ found his stroke. But Mitchell Robinson just continued to dominate on their home floor. I had little doubt after like half time that we would be the favorite to pull this one out. I was just so surprised that we didn't see enough fight from Cleveland, right?
Yeah.
In the end, was it too easy, EJ? Did they make it look easy?
I think, we've talked about this, several times. I think that this was a Cleveland squad that at moments you could actually see them becoming really dispirited. You can see, actually, you know what? Quick segue. I used to be a fan of The Simpsons, the cartoon, and there was a great classic episode of a Valentine's Day episode where Lisa's class, they were writing Valentines to one another, and Lisa felt really bad because Ralph Wiggum didn't get a Valentine, and then she finally wrote one to him, and then she thought that Lisa was in love with her. And then when Lisa finally gets so annoyed and she yells at him, says, "I don't really love you. I just wrote it because I felt bad for you." Like you can see them like replaying the shot where the heart is broken. Exactly. There are several moments where you could see Cleveland's heart just being broken. This game almost never really felt competitive. And so this was a fascinating night.
Yeah, for real, right? As we continue to watch the Miami-Milwaukee series tonight, Milwaukee's up 55-50 with 5 minutes to play in the second. So that's a tight game. I do expect that one obviously to go 6, probably to go 7. But hey, it's better than nothing for the New York Knicks, right? Even if Milwaukee do get through, we will talk about it. But right after we've done talking about this monumental victory as the New York Knicks silenced all the haters, the doubt,
Yeah.
like close this one out in style. To
Yeah.
me, we saw Obi help come in, next man up mentality all season,
Absolutely.
man, step up in Julius's absence. Brunson take on all the physicality. Barrett getting almost decapitated, not even getting a flagrant call. Against all odds, we closed it out in style, and I cannot wait for this next round matchup tonight. EJ, what did you see tonight's performance like in terms of everyone stepping up and just winning this one on the road? How impressive it was.
There were several things we can take away from this game. Number one, the Knicks performance on the road this entire season has not been a fluke. No matter what we like to say about how the regular season is not played the same way that it was played, several decades ago, Tom Thibodeau, he's a throwback coach, and he doesn't like to lose games during the regular season, and so there was some veracity to the Knicks road record. There was some truth to it. And as a result, we saw the Knicks prove that they are a serious road warrior kind of team, that they can go into Cleveland for this series as the underdog and win 2 out of 3 games in Cleveland. I mean, this is why this series was really a statement. It's a statement to the NBA. It was not only a statement to Cleveland.
Facts.
Jalen Brunson was playing at a level where I think he was taking a lot personally. I've been saying that the entire series. But the other thing that we should take away is that even when Randle, who was really showing signs of improvement and seeming to get his rhythm in terms of making smart decisions, unfortunately goes down. But the thing that you have to really, really like, you have to like RJ's game tonight. Played really well. You have to love Mitch's game. You have to love that game.
Yep.
And was there a Emmanuel Quickley sighting tonight?
Facts. There was. Huge
sighting. So those are things you have to love about tonight.
Yeah. Only had 10 turnovers, forced Cleveland into 13, but won the rebounds, EJ, 48
Yeah.
to 30.
Yeah. That was a Ralph Wiggum moment. All
Yep.
of those rebounds, you could see Cleveland's heart just break, just tear into 2.
Yep. And also the assists got up again tonight. We did move the ball well in the first half, 21 assists for the team. I think that's going to be close to a high for the playoffs.
Absolutely.
For the Knicks. Your pesky defense, just being too physical. I knew we had a really good chance to close it out tonight. I just thought we would get a better punch from Cleveland, but that didn't come because they didn't establish any dominance early in the game. They weren't able to get the crowd involved. They weren't really able to take over and hit great shots, but that's a credit to our defense and the physicality. I think we really came in focused. But obviously Julius Randle suffered the ankle roll again.
Yeah.
And to Nice's point, the chat saying, whatever happens in the Milwaukee series, I think the longer that goes, and the fact that we've closed it out tonight is only going to be better, man. We might have 4 or 5, 6 days.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, before the next series. How big is that going to be?
Oh, that's really big. I mean, especially because, if all of us on this chat, all of us on this podcast, we've watched a lot of sports before. We've talked a lot of sports before in our lives. And one of the things we know about ankle rolls or ankle sprains is that if you sprain the same ankle again, it's just going to be a little bit more difficult to recuperate. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to get that ankle right. So time is a huge asset. The fact that the Knicks were able to take care of business tonight, regardless of Julius's injury status, that's going to help Julius and that's going to help the Knicks. So it's a great time for taking care of business.
Absolutely, indeed. You said it, EJ. Now, let's start from the very top as we analyze this series now and tonight's win. Tom Thibodeau, right? What effort, what do you got to say about Tom Thibodeau's effort this series and now taking us into the second round, Eastern Conference semifinals? And do you have a particular grade or anything you want to say about Tom Thibodeau's coaching?
You know, we know Tom Thibodeau intimately. We know him unlike any of the other 29 sports bases, fan bases around the league. Tom Thibodeau is a brilliant coach who sometimes does some really frustrating and maddening things. But let's call a spade a spade. He got a team that was predicted to be in play in contention into playoff contention and to beat a Cleveland team that had what most people thought, including myself at times, the superior talent. And so what we saw this series is the ability to orchestrate and to place his players in, for the most part, the best positions possible. And at times even showing coaching flexibility in what he was going to do. So for example, going through it to a 3-guard rotation once Julius went down in the fourth quarter, once we had to make decisions by the fourth quarter, because obviously Julius was out by the end of the first half, but moving to a 3-guard rotation plus RJ and Mitch, that's not something many of us thought that a Tom Thibodeau would do in terms of adjustments. And so is he the perfect coach? Far be it from it. But by gosh, he's been the right coach for this team. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to give some respect.
Yeah. First and foremost, Leon and him in sync. They got the right personnel. If you're trying to win with Tom Thibodeau, you need Tom Thibodeau personnel. And that's how we played this series. We just absolutely bullied them, the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're the more finesse team. But for me, the Knicks played more true to their style. Whereas I think Cleveland, from game 2, they tried to just deviate so much, you know. You mentioned a great point. You mentioned Bickerstaff going away from what's worked, you know, ostracizing a lot of his role players for better or worse. But, that's going to reduce the confidence of Cleveland. And there was just too much on the shoulders of Donovan Mitchell and Darius, two undersized guards. And we were able to swarm them with our big men. And our Hartenstein gets equal praise. But
Absolutely.
yeah, Mitchell Robinson really at the top in terms of most dominant player of this series. I think tonight capped it off. I would put Mitchell Robinson ahead of Jalen Brunson in terms of series importance.
You know, I think that's what really separates the both squads in this series is that every player that Bickerstaff tried to implement into his rotation and shift his strategy, it almost always reeked of desperation. Whereas almost every person on that 9-man Knicks rotation had a stretch where they were crucial, and they proved how important they were to this roster and how important they were to the rotation. I mean, we can point to singular stretches of at least 5 minutes where 1 through 9, you know, players stepped up and really were instrumental in various games throughout this series, leading to the Knicks winning this series 4-1. So whether it's your first 2, your premier players, Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle. I mean, Jalen Brunson was incredibly consistent. There's no need to even grade him. He is the valedictorian of this Knicks roster for the entirety of the series. But if you go to the middle of your roster and the big man, the Block Ness monster, I mean, what a performance, not only tonight, but the last game as well, too. And then you get to the back of your rotation and you're talking about Obi, you're talking about Emmanuel Quickley seemingly rounding into form. And Obi was incredibly pivotal. He was quietly pivotal throughout the entirety of this series. And I've been singing his praises. The killer. Josh Hart was a killer. So I think that's what really highlights the differences in terms of the two organizations at this point is JB Bickerstaff's moves just reeked of desperation. And The Knicks just seemed to flex with their rotational depth. It was a massive flex, and it worked.
Flex indeed. Huge applause. Yep. For Tibbs, top to bottom. But Mitchell Robinson, man, 11 offensive boards tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the highest I've ever seen, but 18 boards total, Hart with 12, like the chat said. But RJ Barrett stepping up, having a 21-point performance, plus 21 team high.
Yeah.
How many times has RJ Barrett been a team high in the plus?
Yeah.
7 of 13, 36 minute. I think he was the difference late in this series, turning it on in the final 3 games. We were saying the series sort of hinged on a knife edge. But the moment Barrett stepped up in these final 3 games, Cleveland just, our depth just, we left them in the past,
Well, because it became this this whack-a-mole game. At the start of the series, the focal point was Jalen Brunson. And then you had this question of the extent to which this is going to be a Julius Randle series. Would he have this metamorphosis in the playoffs? There are but so many players you can double team. And so as Julius was trying to find his rhythm, and as there was more of a there was a clear effort to double team and to trap Jalen Brunson, all of a sudden RJ Barrett finds his rhythm. And, as Bonson is saying, he finds his confidence. And what's really, really impressive is that RJ was able to string several games together of highly, highly efficient play. It's not just stat stuffing.
Yep.
It's really smart play. It's really confident play. And it's really efficient. And so as Julius struggled at times to find his rhythm and unfortunately subsequently went down to the ankle injury, the ankle roll, RJ filled in the void that was going to be much needed. If RJ hadn't found his rhythm and hypothetically Julius goes down with that ankle roll, I don't know if we're talking about a 4-1 series lead or 4-1 series victory. We might be talking about 3-2 going back to the Garden with concerns as to what's going to happen next.
Yeah. And I was hearing a lot of people saying, the coaching edge would go to Tibbs, but I didn't really doubt that, but I just wanted to see Tibbs execute, Sometimes you said, EJ, the Knicks can sometimes get in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
You said, would the Knicks not win the series, but would they lose the series themselves? Not only was it the complete opposite, we won it, we snatched the win away from Cleveland and their talented, so-called talented team. And we went back and forth all series with content creators and the chat, jumped in comment sections of other Cleveland things, and they're going to be surprised. They're going to pretend like they didn't see this coming. But to me, the 3-1 record in the regular season was enough to see that we had the edge, in terms of head-to-head, and us just being able to roll out more players that we can depend upon.
Yeah.
And that ended up being the series. I mean, we didn't even get much out of Quentin Grimes out of this series, who's another situation where we're going to need him so we can go deep. We can go deep in the playoffs now. Eastern Conference semifinals, looking into the conference finals, potentially with a matchup against Miami. But Julius Randle, we didn't get the best of him in this series. Quickley found his groove tonight, but didn't have a really excellent series. I would only give Quickley a B. Barrett definitely gets an A now, stepping up. Mitchell Robinson an A+. But Julius would probably only give a B- at most. So we had so much more improvement. That's what makes this so much more satisfying, man.
Oh, definitely. This is the kind of team. Well, first off, this is the kind of team where you can just imagine the ceiling is exponentially, it's incalculable. Because again, when we looked at the roster at the start of the season, many of us could not imagine, and I know a lot of us were really excited tonight. We're going to say, I saw it. I'm just going to be honest, I didn't see it. But my gosh, so many players have grown. And what that means, though, is that there are going to be some players who are going to have lulls and moments because they're starting to really start to see what they potentially might be. And I think that we're starting to see some players start to realize, oh, wait, I am this guy. I can be this guy. So seeing, for example, Obi step into a role and have to close out games like he did game 4, that's a moment where that's the first time in his career, so as long as I can remember, where these are huge crunch time moments in a playoff game where Obi's closing out a game. In game 5, Emmanuel quickly all of a sudden really finding his rhythm, his shot rhythm again, and starting to realize, okay, I can be Emmanuel quickly as I was towards the end of the regular season into the playoffs as well too. So I think that
Yeah.
that's one of those things that it was harder to see that and imagine that, and that's a point that you raised when we were talking about this Cleveland series for Cleveland. But yeah, I mean, there are players who did not play their best or barely played this series who are really instrumental to the Knicks and their success, who hypothetically can get on a groove, hit a groove, and help propel the Knicks into this second round playoff series where whomever we're playing, we might be able to play ball with them. So this is really exciting. This is really exciting. And the one thing we both agreed upon was that the NBA this year, more than it has been for the past 15 years, is wide open. It's wide
Oh,
open.
taking back to 1999. And
Yeah.
on that note, we peeped the score going down. Milwaukee's up 68-60 with 1 minute left in the half. So, yeah, Milwaukee trying to get back into that series. We continue to watch, but
Yeah.
the chat's absolutely buzzing as they should. Celebrate, lap it up, soak it up, drink
Definitely.
it up. Mitchell Robinson's contract declining, I put in the
Huh.
chat. But you know what was reflective of our dominance in depth wise?
What's
Deuce
that?
McBride.
Yeah.
Deuce McBride was deserving of more minutes, but Cleveland would love a piece like that. But we got a guy like that that can't even see the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I kind of talked about this at the start of the series, actually before the series even started. Cleveland to me is a fascinating team because it's a model of perhaps what we don't want to do. And I think it was Queen's Place who mentioned this, that there's too much talent for Cleveland. Although Cleveland is a top heavy team, you could see so many rotational pieces that were just lacking and missing. So much so, one of my friends texted me yesterday. Just want to shout out my friend Alex Kane, who watches, and he texted me. He's like, "Hey, wouldn't it have made sense for like a Cleveland to sign a Carmelo Anthony, just because like the ability to just put up some points from the depth perspective, and you see it like there's a lack of depth that
Yeah,
really highlighted this Cleveland roster. So they were top heavy,
yeah,
but it wasn't in the right places, and we just out depth them. So
yeah. And now the major question heading into this series was, well, the major thought, EJ, was that the Cleveland Cavaliers had the best player in this series, so-called best player, and he was supposed to lead them to victory. Now that the series is done, 4-1, who had the best player in this series?
oof. I think Jalen Brunson's probably the better person to answer that question because I
Absolutely.
I honestly think like if the way you look at this series, and we talked about the storylines, and we called it. We said that one of the reasons why this particular series was going to be one of the best, if not best, series of the NBA opening playoff rounds was because of how many different story threads and storylines that were coming into this. And one of them is, Jalen Brunson seems to be one of these players who takes things personally.
Oh, yeah.
there are no ifs, ands, or buts about this series. He took very personally, and he wanted to make a statement. Donovan Mitchell was a storyline that fascinated and gripped the NBA throughout the course of the 2022 summer. But
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Brunson wanted people to remember he's that guy. And as I said last game, he deserves to be in all for the foreseeable future. He seriously needs to be discussed in NBA acknowledgement, whether it's All Star, whether it's All NBA. I think at this point now, like this, the playoffs, the NBA playoffs this season has really. I think the NBA is going to have a difficult time presenting a lot of their awards this year, and to see, for example, a player like Donovan Mitchell really get smoked out of the playoffs
Mm.
by someone who wasn't even named to the NBA All Star team.
Yeah,
So that, yeah.
I think new narrative's now been written. That's
Hmm.
twice, 2 years in a row, our own Jalen Brunson has eliminated Spider Mitchell from the playoffs, outplayed him, made his team better,
Yeah.
played more consistent. And I think obviously I think Spider had more pressure coming in. You know, he has less help, which is proven to be true. Jalen Brunson has more help on this team. But for that consensus narrative that Spider was the best player in this series and he would lead the Cleveland Cavs to the series,
Yeah.
that I don't want to hear that narrative anymore,
Yeah.
man.
No.
Next season, if it's Brunson versus Spider, I don't think these people who should be backpedaling now, hiding back into the bush. Speaking of the Simpsons, when you're talking about Homer Simpson hiding again, it was Jalen Brunson who delivered of this series in terms of, and Mitchell Robinson, you know, in terms of being the most consistent. But I'm not trying to sink the boot into Spider, but he did underperform. He really did in this series.
Yeah. No. He definitely underperformed, and you know, like I said before, there are many ways.
Mm.
Um, there are many ways in which the narratives of the league have to change. Um, like for example, and I'm just going to pivot here for a second.
Yeah.
Uh, um, Luka Doncic, great player,
Oh, great point.
but I don't want to hear all of that stuff about how he's like this. You know, part of it has to be results driven. Like I love the talent, I love the potential of the talent, but a lot of a lot of the experts really knocked what the Knicks could be. They misunderstood what the Knicks could be. And it even comes down to, and I was about to pull up the NBA's, and we talked about this the other night, the NBA rankings of players. I'm
Mm.
sorry. I'm sorry. Jalen Brunson better be top 20 at the very least next season, next off season.
Better be, has to be,
Has to be.
must be,
Yeah.
is be. Salute to everyone, though. We deserve this first and foremost. What's first time in 10 years
Yeah, man.
to the year 2013 when Carmelo Anthony, Amari Stoudemire, and co. got past the Boston Celtics, where they wore all black. Who could
Yeah,
forget? What a
I remember that.
what a time to be alive, eh? Here we are, Knicks fans, chat writing our own history now, and we might be facing the Miami Heat. I hope. I hope it's Milwaukee. Doesn't matter really. It's going to be fun, and I think we have the horses to get to the ECF now. Catch lightning in a bottle.
Hey, can I can I
Yeah,
can I jump in here for a second?
yeah.
Okay, let's just have some fun. Um, do you remember? And it's okay if you don't, because I didn't remember. I'm looking it up right now, so I'm cheating.
Mm.
Where Julius Randle was ranked in the ESPN top 100 poll
Was this pre-season?
preseason?
Yeah. I can't remember exactly, but I'm going to say it was top 100. I'm going to say it was probably around the 60s.
Not bad.
Was it around the
70,
60s?
71.
Wow. And he
You
was
want
our
to?
highest player?
I'm going to get to that. You know who was
Okay.
ranked ahead of him? Al
Yeah.
Horford.
Oh.
Oh no, it gets better. It gets better. Spencer Dinwiddie. You ready for the next one?
Is this ESPN?
This is ESPN.
Yeah.
You ready for the next one?
Yep, I'm ready.
At number 67, Jalen Brunson.
When are they going to learn? When are they
Number
going to learn?
67.
That's shade all the way. We
It's
know that.
bro, really quick. Russell Westbrook, 65.
Wow.
RJ, 63.
That's crazy.
Tyler
Where
Hero,
was
61.
where was Spider? I love how
Oh.
you got all this. You had all this stored in the bank. Now is the time, man. Pull out receipts.
Oh, you
How
want some
many
more seats?
receipts?
Jordan Poole, 55.
Oh, honestly thought you were gonna pull out a Joe Harris on me or something.
Oh, no, it gets worse.
Yeah.
Jared Allen, 52.
Wow. The Al Horford one was the best.
Oh, Al Horford was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Al
Started.
Horford,
Yeah.
Al Horford was absolutely ridiculous. Um,
Bonson's comment. I wonder what Shaq's gonna say. He's gonna pull out that trusty. My apologies. I wasn't familiar with your game.
absolutely absurd.
I got to give a shout out to some people who kept bigging upping us all season, which was Kendrick Perkins, but it was also the acquisition of Brunson was Charles Barkley. Charles, even the other night, he said this could still be, or is, in his opinion, debatable, the best free agent pickup in history, Jalen Brunson. And in the background, you hear Shaq saying, what, in history? No, in history? Yeah, in history. In terms of changing, having an immediate change on the franchise and impact from the start. And we've come a long, long way. We probably is still in the play-in without Jalen Brunson. Here we are in the second round, and it's only the first year of a bargain contract.
Yeah.
So I'm obviously agreeing with Chuck.
Well, also, I mean, the other part of it too is that those moves should be not only be celebrated for making the moves, they should also be celebrated for making the moves given the financial ramifications of the move.
Yeah.
Like that's something that's understated and almost never mentioned. Like you had to remind me, like the way that the Jalen Brunson contract is structured. I mean, it's not only that Jalen Brunson is an amazing player and really should be in top 25 conversations from here to the rest of through the rest of his contract, but it's also you have to give the front office some love here because they got Jalen Brunson and they got him on a contract which is not only obviously he's going to be a rich man and he's going to be set for life and his family's going to be set for life. He has generational wealth now, but it was structured in a way that also benefited the organization. This is not, it doesn't appear to be a contract that's going to age so poorly. It's not going to be one of these contracts where, it's not going to be a John Wall contract. It's not going to be, one of these contracts where you're looking at it and saying like, oh my gosh, why is this person, getting $30 million, $40 million and it's an immovable contract? This, it doesn't take that much for a team to really show upward trajectory. And this team has really showed it. This organization is showing it. And this is why the streets of Madison Square Garden, around Madison Square Garden, are really, truly buzzing right now. And Knicks fans worldwide, throw as much shade as you can as possible on social media. Do me a favor, guys. let's at people and just tell them, this is what we did. We're here.
It's
We're here.
coming.
Yeah.
It's coming, EJ, for
Yeah.
days and days
Yeah.
and days.
Yeah.
As we can go far. The question is, how far can we go? We could go so far. But
Absolutely.
you know what's another great reason we closed it out tonight? Knicks fans can save their dollars. We didn't need to have a game 6 back at MSG, and they can save those dollars for flooding the Miami arena,
Oh, absolutely.
flooding the Milwaukee arena. Let's get on the
Absolutely.
road. Let's get out in
Absolutely.
numbers, and and make some more noise. If
Absolutely.
people thought people celebrating now in Knicksville is something that they got no idea what's coming in round 2. This this thing is gonna this thing is gonna explode. This thing is gonna explode, man.
And the Knicks travel well too. So
Yeah. Did you hear some people make quotes that the Garden in game 3 and 4 was louder than, I think it was Jeff Van Gundy said it was even louder than the NBA Finals in '99.
yeah, I heard that. I
Yeah,
heard that. And that's why, like, one of the things I was trying to explain, and I didn't know if I did it really well, was
yeah,
the energy is different. The energy is it's different. I
yeah,
think I tried to mention the other night that when I was watching in '99, obviously there was very little social media at the time, but there weren't people out in the streets the way that they've been out in the streets
yeah,
for the entirety of this playoff run. That's something that was reserved for the end of the series. There's something maybe it's been the 50 years since the championship. Maybe it's been the decade since we've gone into the second round. Maybe it's because we suffered so much through so much dysfunction and upheaval and turmoil. But the energy is really palpable. Like, you can feel it. You can definitely feel it. You can see it. The fact that MSG now runs so many commercials where it's like really like to the point of being crazy, like how rabid Knicks fans are right now. So that energy, there are going to be a lot of people who they have to apologize. People like Max Kellerman.
Oh, Robin Lundberg was another
Yeah,
one trying to
yeah, like
clown us when we didn't get KD and Kyrie.
yeah,
Now he's not even backtracking. He's trying to double down,
yeah.
which is ridiculous.
These are people. You know what they're gonna do. And shout out Jarvis, man. You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna move the goalpost. So they're
Yeah,
gonna say, "Oh, so what? You beat Cleveland. You beat Cleveland because Donovan Mitchell, blah 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 blah. Oh, so you haven't won a championship yet? Listen, these are the same people who said we would barely make the play-in. And so,
yeah,
yes, this should be cause for celebration because, again, Knicks fans, we are on the precipice. We are on the precipice.
yeah,
We are on the precipice of something special. And I know that there's a player sitting in their room right now thinking, how can I make my way? How can I make my way to that?
yeah. Michael Wilbon, I think it was, basement, salute. Richard Jefferson, salute. Salute to everyone. But you know what their argument was? The Knicks had to prove it. They had to actually win, and then we would change our tune. Well, now
Mhm.
let's see. Let's see.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm not really interested in haters, backtracking. I'm more proud of everyone that believed, and this has been a journey we've been on. But now we have an amazing, deep squad that we can all support, feel good about, giving good effort, going deep for a number of years to come. This isn't really like 2 years ago, EJ.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not got a Derrick Rose on his last legs. We're
Yeah.
not we're
Yeah.
not worried about an Elfrid Payton playing 3 minutes to start the game. Then he has to go to the bench. Now it's now it's like, who could we bring on to close this game out? Because our bench is lined up like celebrity row.
It really is. It really is. And I mean, here's the other thing too. Like, think about how many serviceable Knicks, serviceable rotation players were in street clothes tonight. Jericho Sims was in street clothes tonight.
Oh, I forgot about him.
Quentin Grimes was in street clothes tonight. By the second half, Julius Randle was in street clothes tonight.
Having some
So
popcorn.
having some pop, he was like, all right. He's like, he didn't even sit on the bench. He's like, I'm just gonna sit right here. And I think that's something that,
Yeah.
we have to really, really be proud of, is that when someone who's in your family, someone who's a hater, just mentions, oh, like, Knicks fans are, overdoing it. No, just come back and say, listen, we defeated Cleveland. We beat Cleveland. And 40% of our starting roster, sorry, 40% of our starting rotation, our starting unit, they were out. They were out.
Yep.
So this is cause for celebration. And Kaiser Soze, man, if that could happen, that'd be dope. So we definitely have a lot to celebrate tonight. And tomorrow, walk with pride, walk with your swag, rock your swag. We are in full celebration.
And another element to this is how many people do you think are watching the Knicks now? Basically close Cleveland out with ease, EJ, chat, Knicks streets. Close it out and seal the deal in style. And imagine what it's going to be like going up against Miami or the Heat or the Bucks, Milwaukee in the second round with more eyes on the Knicks, more feel-good vibes, more fans closing the streets down, more young role players getting a chance to show the league what they can do. I'm just super happy for this run to continue, and I think we're in for a hell of a ride.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think health is going to be really important, and it's a good point, Fabian. So you really do need to protect that ankle, especially when you consider what Jalen Brunson had to do to get one of those loose balls. But the other part of it too is, like, if you think about how many different turned ankles and sprains and, like, a Tyler Hero not being part of the Miami rotation at this point, a Victor Oladipo not being a part of the Miami rotation, Giannis, who's clearly still trying to make his way back from his previous injuries, are a huge deal in this league. And the depth of the Knicks is really working to their advantage because they've also been beset by injuries, but they were able to win and to do it. And no matter what a hater might want to say, as they look at the playoff brackets, the Knicks will be facing the winners of the Miami-Milwaukee series. And whatever team it ends up being, that team is going to have some serious disadvantages. It's going to have some serious questions because they're probably going to be coming from a prolonged series, and they're going to come out of this series with some really injured players. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens. So I really hope that Julius gets a chance to sit and goes through some therapy on his ankle. That whatever Quentin Grimes has to do to deal with that contusion, that's addressed, and the Knicks training staff has already developed a game plan to address some of these players who need some rest and some rehabilitation as well.
Yeah, I'm actually not as worried about the Grimes thing because I think he would have played in Game 6. I just had this feeling they were sitting him tonight to rest up. But yeah, great points you made about this potential break we're going to get. And speaking of break, a score update is the Miami Heat have rallied to 68-69, just 1 point the difference with 10 to play in the third. So could we get the matchup tonight? Could the Miami Heat close it out tonight? And we know the series already. We await and we continue to watch the score there as the chat continues to pile through and appreciate everyone and show their appreciation for the team and the buzz coming through. But what was your, in terms of the performances tonight, right? Jalen Brunson's calm hand on the road. Was it Mitchell Robinson, Josh Hart's 12 rebounds? Rank your order of impressive performances tonight.
I'm gonna give love. I fell in love with basketball for the man who came from
Mm.
Kingston, Jamaica, and made his way to Boston, and then eventually found his way to DC at Georgetown, and was the number one draft pick to the New York Knicks. So I fell in love with because of Patrick Ewing, the big man. So I'm gonna give love in honor of Patrick Aloysius Ewing. I'm going to give love to one Mitchell Blockness Monster Robinson. He deserves so many kudos because the way that the Knicks just deflated Cleveland and their entire effort, it's largely in part because of um, his energy on the boards, and that really, really, really helped to set the tenor of the game tonight. So for me, it starts with Mitchell Robinson. Obviously, you have to take into consideration what Jalen Brunson had been doing the entire series. So that would be like my second star, and then my third star. RJ. RJ deserves to be really, really, truly commended for the effort that he put in tonight, the efficiency, the ability to hit, open threes, clutch threes, and to do it again. This to me was an extension of his game four. Like I said in after our game four post show, the Knicks don't win if RJ didn't have the game that he had game four. And so he applied pressure that was absolutely necessary, and much the same, he was able to hit some really key shots tonight. But this is like really choosing from I don't even know how to describe it, but everyone did so well tonight, and it's really hard to nitpick. And I'm not going to nitpick. I'm not going to, on a series closing game where the Knicks win. Flowers to everyone, man. So, just salute. In the words of Jay Boogie, salute. Mitchell, salute. Brunson, salute. Randle, salute. Randle, kick your legs up, man. Just relax.
Relax. Berman can relax. Everyone can relax.
Yeah, relax. Yeah, just relax.
And we did it. We
Yeah.
did it. Everyone, I know fans are still comprehending it. We see some comments saying people still can't believe it, but no, it's going to sink in. It's going to sink in. We won a first-round playoff series.
Yeah.
Nick Streets, ladies and gentlemen. How far can we go? We could go to the NBA Finals this year, absolutely, if things go right. I like our chances against Boston, who are in an extended series now, thanks to Trae Ice Cold Young. Now, the Miami Heat doing battle with Milwaukee. Hopefully there's a few bruising, more encounters while we can sit back, like EJ said, and put our feet up. The chat, all the pods, we can continue to chop this up and talk about another gear that we could go to. Tom Thibodeau coaching masterclass. He probably got all the scouting reports ready to go on Milwaukee, Miami, Boston, maybe even Atlanta if they pull up an upset.
Yeah.
How crazy would that be in a chance for revenge if the Knicks were able to face ATL?
I would. This is where it gets tough. It's like, do you root for teams you hate just so that you can beat them?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah.
Imagine Derrick Rose coming off the bench for that final possession, and we beat Trae Young and knocked them out to go to the NBA Finals.
Oh my. Well, I mean, listen. If the path to the NBA Finals is through Atlanta, I have no problem with it. I have a lot of cool people that I love in Atlanta. I now fly down to Atlanta pretty often. So, if it's actually, even though I can't stand Trae Young, if the path goes through Atlanta, there's some great spots down in Atlanta. So I wouldn't mind going through Atlanta just to not only shut up Trae Young, but to get to see some good people and hang out with some good places in Atlanta.
But back to your points about the rankings, I've got to agree and just double down on what you said. I'm getting some messages coming through on Twitter. people praising Mitch, saying grown ass man.
Mm-hmm.
And Mitchell Robinson, 11 offensive rebounds, 18 total, with 3 blocks, 2 steals. I mean, they had no answer. This is one of the most dominant big man performances I've seen since Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah,
Put
yeah,
this up there with Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki, Amari in the playoffs.
yeah.
This was an absolute masterclass, and nobody should gloss over this just because it's Mitchell Robinson and he's not an offensive juggernaut. What he did tonight was a defensive juggernaut, and I don't know if they've done the awards yet. EJ, could this have earned him an all-defensive team? In terms of recency bias.
See, this is why I have sometimes issues with the way that the NBA does its awards. And I do think that it's probably not going to be something that takes place over
Mm.
the course of this offseason, but in the near future, there might have to be some sort of real like internal evaluation of how things are determined in terms of who wins what awards. Mitchell Robinson, in terms of his value and his value with respect to the Knicks defense, is immeasurable. It's truly immeasurable. And so I think this is probably one of the more difficult things. Like there are Knicks
Mm.
players who won't get league recognition for what should really be one of the Cinderella stories of this 2022-2023 NBA season. A Nick deserves some sort of recognition. And I know that Julius got to play in the All-Star game. That's great. But I'm
Yeah,
talking about like postseason. I'm talking about like rather end of regular
yeah,
season awards and recognition. This has to be recognized because again, Donovan Mitchell will be recognized. He'll be recognized in some shape or form. And even speaking to Mitch, the other thing that we cannot, and I almost forgot this point, one of the big points that's really huge about his performance tonight is he did it against Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. And think about how much
yeah.
of the storylines and how much of, how many of the storylines were about like, their dominating interior presence. Listen, Mitchell Robinson, and I'm shouting out Queen's Place for this one. I'm stealing it. Thank you for this one. Mitchell Robinson ate them up like they were jerk chicken. He put extra curry on it,
Barbecue chicken.
barbecue. Then he came back for some
Yeah.
barbecue chicken, and then he said, "I'm not done. Let me get some fried
Cheers.
chicken on that." Then he said, "Let me get some more. Let me get some pulled chicken on that." And then he said, "Let me get some more. Let me get some rotisserie chicken on that." And then he said, "Let me get some chicken tenders on that." And then he
What
said, "Let
was
me get
that?
some chicken nuggets."
KFC finger licking good. All that.
You just it's so
Yeah.
it's a you have to really truly compliment Mitchell Robinson and give it its proper context. And that he left Evan Mobley and Jared Allen looking embarrassed.
Yeah. Dumplings, Ryan. Yeah.
Listen. Yeah, put them in the chat. Put them in the chat. Put them in the
Yeah.
chat.
Mike says mega Mitch man among boys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rory says Megatron. The Shredder.
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Absolutely.
He was
Absolutely.
shredding. No doubt he was the player that had the single most impact on the floor in terms of stopping, defensively, deterring everything. I saw this crazy stat where players were like 22% when Mitch contests the shot.
Wow.
Throughout this whole series, they were shooting 22% on every shot he contested.
Wow. He
That's
was
like
he
you or me hoisting it up, like
yeah.
having an equal chance.
Well, but that's the thing. He eats them up like barbecue chicken wings. I mean, he eats them up like if you're from New York, you know this one, Chinese chicken wings. It was Applebee's boneless chicken wings. It was
It
so
was chef's
impressive.
kiss.
Yeah, it was really impressive, and I think that's why like I'm always going to mention the dominating fashion of this performance tonight was complemented and contexted by him doing it against Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. And he was a man. He was a man, and they were boys tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, Richard also pinpoints the Rudy Gobert thing. What do you want to say about Minnesota getting eliminated.
Listen, I was actually thank you, Richard, for that, man, because like that really annoyed me the day the trade came down. I think we were on the show, even the ICT, and it just really bothered me. And I think that there were very few people. I couldn't hear anybody in the NBA sphere really talking about the issue that exists with the Rudy Gobert trade. It just didn't make any sense. And I think I was like on Twitter before the show started, and someone posted, "This is what you get trading 4 draft picks and several players for." And I was like, that was obvious from the very beginning of that trade. Like, that's not you. I think one of the lessons we're learning from this offseason, as like the offseason is really like we don't really see how successful the offseason was until we get to the playoffs. Think about how much depth and future assets Minnesota gave up for a first round exit.
Yeah, man, it changed the landscape. Not only that, but KD,
Yeah,
KD couldn't even get traded after that, which was crazy.
it
For
made no sense.
Yeah, it did not. But speaking of, could the Knicks get an award? I wanted to say this before. I think Leon Rose
Executive of the
would.
year.
How fitting would that be? The man at the top of the tree overseeing everything. If he were to get something, and I think if we make the Eastern Conference Finals or go deep in the second round, his case just gets better and better in terms of that accolade, you know. And people that have been hating on him, people saying he should have been fired, people saying Tom Thibodeau should have been fired.
Yeah.
Man, if teams that make the second round Eastern Conference semis should get fired, then what should happen with all the other 22 other franchises?
It's an excellent question, and I forget who posted this in the chat, but someone talked about how, like, you know, and we've talked about this before. Like I said, this series is going to be fascinating because if Cleveland loses, what do they do?
Man,
And now we're there. That was a hypothetical scenario we discussed, and because of how this series played out, and you know, Berman and I were tweeting about this, but this is going to define not only like Thibodeau. I think Thibodeau has this, at this point, he's bought himself an entire year where you can't really question his job security next season. That's just
no, that's
out of the conversation piece. And then the other part of it too is, yeah, Leon Rose is now seriously an executive of the year stratosphere. It doesn't mean, and I want everyone to understand this, we're not saying, and thank you so much, Bonson, thank you so much for that. It doesn't mean that there aren't mistakes. Like, so for example, Kemba, that was a mistake.
mistake.
That was an atrocious mistake. Evan Fournier, más o menos, right? But we're not Cleveland. We're not in Cleveland's position. Like, Cleveland, what do you do? And like, and I really apologize to the person who posted this. The sacrificial lamb, because there are but so many moves a Cleveland can make now, might be a JB Bickerstaff, because, you know, organizations who trap themselves by trading away massive amounts of assets, and they don't realize the playoff success that they had envisioned after that trade, but you can't make that many moves. The only move you can usually make is then, okay, we're going to make a symbolic gesture move by replacing the head coach. So what does that do? So I don't know. What do you think, CT? And shout out, Will. Good to have you in the chat again, Will Salkin.
Yeah, chat buzzing right now. I just think we've always been in a position, EJ, where we can't win, you know, no matter what we do. You know, there's detractors, deterrers waiting for us. You know, we're an easy target, low-hanging fruit, you know. We still see people talking about the practice facility being far from, you know, from the arena, outside of the city. We hear Dolan every now and then. I mean, we're just an easy target. But
Yeah.
right now, the New York Knicks making statements on the court. making statements, and all these younger generation people that don't know about the Knicks follies in the early 2000s aren't going to remember that. What they're going to remember is we're doing great now, the Jalen Brunsons. And a classic example, EJ, let me make this point in the chat. When the draft prospects get interviewed, they say, what makes this place enticing? Why would you want to play in this place? What would they normally say about New York? They would talk about the city, or they would talk about MSG. Now they can talk about the team for once. They could actually say, man, Jalen Brunson, Mitchell Robinson, these dudes have got it going.
Yeah. It's a brilliant point. And if you are a sports fan, and I'm assuming a lot of people on the chat, what's great about what we get to do is that this is a worldwide audience. But I'm also going to assume that a lot of the people in the chat represent, Queens, Brooklyn. They represent the Bronx, Staten Island, Manhattan, Long Island. If you're one of those, people, you also know that James Dolan owns the Rangers, and the Rangers are also in the playoffs, and they've consistently been in the playoffs for the last 3 or 4 years, 3 or 4 seasons. No one in hockey complains about James Dolan. No one cares about James Dolan when it comes to hockey, and in part it's because of how much success the organization has had. And there has been somewhat of organizational structural issues in terms of who the team president's going to be. There have been some people who've been replaced. So, for example, Glenn Sather was replaced. A bunch of different positions were replaced. But there's been consistency in terms of the winning in the past 5 or 6 years. The issue with the Knicks is that, for the most part, for the past 20 years, save for a few bright spots, it's been bad. But let's also throw this. Let's call a spade a spade. I'm a history guy. I love history. Name an organization that's a championship contender now that didn't go through a stretch of being mediocre and a laughingstock. All of them. I mean, it wasn't too long ago that the Lakers were a joke. It was not too long ago where the only thing that kept Laker fans, because a lot of them are only fans where they're good.
Yeah.
Were only interested because of Kobe's last couple of seasons. That was the height of it. It wasn't that long ago that Denver was just nobody took Denver seriously. It wasn't that long ago, Milwaukee. When I was growing up as a kid, Milwaukee was one of those places you were like, who plays in Milwaukee? So it's really important. It's really important to keep that in perspective. Is that almost every team in the association goes through a lull. I mean, unfortunately, the Knicks have gone through one that's a little bit more publicized because of the media market that we're in, and because the management has been bad at times. But I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what this could be the beginnings of.
I'm super excited, man. And we had dudes step up at different parts of the series, but I want to shout out IQ for stepping up tonight on the road, stepping up late. But not just on the road. I think his defense was incredibly underrated, EJ. The way he was able to, his defensive IQ, which is pun intended, was that he was calling plays, he was picking plays off before they happen. He knows where to be on the floor. He's great getting around screens. And Josh Hart made life difficult.
Oh, yeah.
Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Let's not understate that fact. Having Mitchell Robinson and Hartenstein under the bucket, but having now these difference makers guarding the best perimeter guards. And with Garland and Spider, they don't come much better than them.
Yeah.
So I have full confidence in any series now that we can close it out with these kind of perimeter defenders.
Yeah, and we're in a league where all it takes is one ankle twist, and you can steal a game.
Yep. We've proven we can win on the road in
Absolutely.
the most hostile environment. Boston, Tick,
Yeah.
Miami. Tick. ATL Cleveland tick.
Yeah.
Have we won in Milwaukee?
No, not that I can remember.
No.
No, I think that's the only. I think that's the only one. But yet again, I keep on coming back to it. It only takes an ankle roll. It
Yeah.
only takes and we saw it tonight. Like there were several
Yeah.
plays where players hit the ground, and you were like, "Oh, this doesn't look good." I mean, whether it was Donovan Mitchell hitting the stanchion with his head, Darius Garland, like that play where it almost looked like he had whiplash and hit his head against the floor. Again, this is the kind of league where it only takes a split second, and all of a sudden, one of the reasons why people are so up for the Miami and Milwaukee series right now is because Giannis was out for several games, and that tipped, the scales in terms of the possibilities of Miami possibly winning the series.
Yeah. Speaking of, the Bucks have pulled ahead now.
Yeah.
Lead 102-86.
Yeah.
So they're up 16.
16.
Yeah, at the end of the third. So looks like we're going back to Miami for a game 6.
Doesn't bother me.
Miami will have one more game at home to try to close it out. Maybe we get another Jimmy Bucket special. Like you said, all it takes is a roll of an ankle.
That's it.
All it takes is the bounce of a ball.
No.
Joel Embiid, remember when Kawhi won that title with the Raptors? The ball was bouncing and bouncing and bouncing.
Kawhi is a great example too. I mean, look at what happened to him this playoff series.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect example.
Speak to me a little bit now about RJ Barrett in a nutshell, because his last 3 performances, stringing 3 in a row, being the team's high in the plus-minus 21 points, hitting 5 of 6 free throws. The free throws don't seem to be that much of an issue. Shot 2 of 4, 50% from deep, and 7 of 13, above 50% from the field.
Yeah. It seems that there's been a moment of revelation that's arisen for RJ Barrett. I think many of us have sometimes become frustrated with RJ because there's this question of, is it in him? But let's also think that it might also coincide with Julius not necessarily having the opportunity to dominate as much because of him trying to come back from the injury. So I think this has been somewhat of a revelation. And I think that this might also be a revelation for RJ, having the understanding of what are my options when I'm on the court? What are my options when I'm on the floor? And so this is revelatory. This is really great for us to see from an RJ. It's one thing for us to see a player succeed during the regular season. That's great. That's all well and good. But what's amazing is that we're getting to see RJ do it during the most difficult of minutes, that being playoff minutes. RJ did this in 2 really, really pivotal games. He did this to create a commanding 3-1 lead. 3-1 leads are really, really important. So because even if the Knicks had lost tonight, what a 3-1 lead becomes is a 3-2 lead. You still have that buffer where even if a team feels good about themselves after winning a game to make it 3-2, they still have to then still win 2 out of 3 games, and you only have to win 1. And so RJ doing it game 4 and RJ doing it again game 5, really, really, really impressive. And I love the maturity. I love the development. He's able to do something that Zion hasn't done yet.
Oh, you knew where I was going.
I said it.
Yeah. Great minds think alike. Yeah, go
This
ahead.
is Knicks Buzz. We're buzzing. Some people might get stung.
Yeah. Zion not playing.
Yeah.
Ja Morant, credit to him. He's obviously in the playoffs performing. But yeah, I was about to piggyback off your point about Barrett now, showing that he, in his second playoff appearance, in terms of second year in the playoffs, has produced.
Yeah.
Has produced so far. And tonight on the road, a few at MSG, picking his spots, seems like he's more calmer, more composed, and that's not easy in a playoff environment to be effective, adjust. You know, they took him out of the game in game 2. I was extremely worried for RJ after that, but I did not write him off. That was the biggest thing for me. I did not say, let's bench RJ. I said, give him game 3, then reduce his minutes if he's not performing. I didn't say bench him. I said, see how it goes, because players at home and on the road look very, very different. And now, just before I get your thoughts on what I said, shout out to Brunson for the $5 super chat.
Thanks, brother.
Salute.
Yeah, Brunson, that's an amazing. I mean, it's an amazing statement. Again, the streets is buzzing. RJ Barrett and the New York Knicks are doing things that like let's pull out the roll call. Let's do the roll call real quick. RJ Barrett and the Knicks are going to the second round. What's Zion doing right now?
Sitting at home.
RJ Barrett and the New York Knicks are going into the second round. What's Kawhi and Paul George doing?
In the hospital bed.
Wow. Josh Hart and the New York Knicks are in the second round right now. Kyrie Irving. What's he doing right now?
In the Bahamas.
What about Luka? What's Luka doing?
Oh. What? I know where Luka is, actually. There's a Luka sighting.
Is there really a Luka sighting?
Listen, it's Cleveland, Ohio, and it's not the greatest city in the world, and I've been there way too many times.
To Bronson's point, like the Knicks are doing things that, when you look at who the NBA traditionally at this season has marketed, has been part of like a lot of the iconography, has been a lot of it part of the advertisements. You know, like if you think about all the players I just mentioned and how many commercials they're part of during TNT performances or TNT shows rather, or like, you know, broadcasts or All-Star Weekend. Like if we were to take a look at the All-Star rosters and to check out how many of those guys are sitting at home or in the Caribbean right now or are back home. Josh Hart's not going home. He's going to the next round of the playoffs. Neither is Mitch. Neither is Obi. Neither is Julius. They're going in the second round. So thank you so much for the super chat. Thank you so much for supporting us. And Ryan Patterson. While playing Fortnite.
You know, he's still trying to attack the refs.
Yeah.
Leaving voice messages with the league office. Team Street Clothes, yeah. They should start their own clothing line.
Oh, wow.
Salute Kaiser, Deras, Jarvis coming through. Jarvis says, yeah, I'm happy for RJ. RJ in the offseason is to improve his ball handling and footwork. Then my guy will go to another level.
That's a really great point. There were some times like where he dribbles and you can see like he exposes the ball a lot. But, you know, I think that success for RJ, and there's something that CT said that was so brilliant. You know, RJ has had a really up and down season. You know, we had stretches where RJ wasn't closing out games. And think how far he's come. That says a lot about the kid. This says a lot about his mental makeup, his ability to rebound, his ability to, and not rebound in terms of like grabbing boards, in terms of his ability to like go from the lows of an NBA career in terms of like, you know, being a highly touted prospect. And, you know, what appears to have the coach lose faith in you to all of a sudden, you know, all of these Knick content shows are singing your praises and your mentions are going to be exploding. And for you to have the maturity and the presence of mind to block it out and to be consistent, that's amazing. And so kudos and a tip of the cap, a little tip of the cap to RJ Barrett.
It is. Yeah, he would have heard so much from, man, it's just really taken me back full circle, EJ, back to the summer where RJ was that person. He was that person who was in trade talks. It was confirmed by Woj, and he had to go through all of that.
Yeah.
And went through the ups and downs. But Also want to shout out his trainer, his coach, Tibbs, Johnny Bryant, all the assistant coaches, all the unsung heroes that we don't get to see all the time, putting in work with these players. Nice mention, Pablo Prigioni,
Yeah.
anyone and everyone who stepped up. As I got the Empire State Building, which is lit up in orange and blue tonight, to let the city know who the real team, the city's team is right now. As the scenes are crazy, there's videos all over of people like soccer,
Wow.
EJ, jumping up and down in the mosh. In terms of what's next now, casting our eyes on the next game between Milwaukee and Miami. 9 to play in the fourth. Miami's down 90, Milwaukee 102.
Okay.
So that one's going 6. What do
Yeah.
you what does your gut tell you with that game?
This is a series that looks like it can go 7. This was like a series that can definitely go 7. So in terms of Game 6, I can definitely imagine a Milwaukee
Yeah.
gutting out another. I can imagine Milwaukee gutting out another win. It being really close. Unfortunately, Miami for them, Miami is not at full strength. They're really pulling this off with a lot of smoke and mirrors. I don't know, like.
Yeah.
They are a crazy glue duct tape kind of team. And if I were a Milwaukee fan, I'd be concerned.
Yeah.
Because this is not the kind of team that you would think theoretically a Milwaukee should be really having to pull off a huge basketball miracle to save your season.
It's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah.
But we don't really know how healthy Giannis is at the moment.
Yes.
I think Milwaukee are very top heavy. Yes, they can still win with Drew, but in terms of that, I think it's just going to favor the Knicks either way. They're going to get a more tired, beaten down, maybe Giannis not 100% with the Miami Heat, which we know. I like our chances, and I cannot wait to see if that series happens. But with that said, do you legitimately believe now? Do you legitimately believe that the Knicks in this season could find themselves in the Eastern Conference Finals?
Again, I go back to the idea that it's one ankle roll, it's one
Yeah.
the Ross, yo, love it.
We getting that.
It's
That'll
one.
be the icing on Mark Cuban's
Oh my gosh.
year.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's one ankle roll, it's one, fine, it's one, blow up, it's one slip on the court, and things change. Like for many of us tonight, this win is amazing. This playoff series and this victory, because it's a decade in the making, feels really great. But we can't forget that Julius was on that court and he was holding his ankle. So like part of the equation, and I'm not trying to temper anyone's expectations. I'm not trying to, make anyone get off that amazing feeling that you're feeling right now. But there is something to remember that we don't know what Julius's condition is going to be. So it's hard to make a prediction without really knowing who one of our top dogs, how is he going to be in terms of being prepared for a game 1 in either Miami or against a Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's a wait and see.
Yeah.
But again, I want to shout out our squad from top to bottom. The way our role players stepped up, our elite role players with Obi, 12 points plus 5 tonight, was 50% from the field, 50% from 3. The 3 ball is legit for Obi Toppin now. He's ready.
Yeah.
He's ready. That's going to be a hot topic in the off season. But I hope Obi stays in New York knit.
Yeah.
And he even flashed that little pull up off the dribble,
Yes.
which was a big
mid-range.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big moment in tonight. And Deuce McBride's been solid all season. Hartenstein was the front court partner with Mitch backing him up. And Emmanuel Quickley stepping up late, finding his way. And let's not forget, it's only their second trip to the playoffs. So the longer we go, that's why I felt more comfortable as this series went. The more games these young players play, EJ, I think they're just going to feel more comfortable.
Definitely.
As we look ahead.
Definitely. I think that this is just, I say this is one of my favorite quotes and to really live by. Wisdom doesn't come with age, it comes with experience. And, the part of it is, you have the choice to learn from your experiences. And I think Coach Thibodeau is the kind of person who's going to help these particular players to learn and to carry the great things they were able to do with this particular series, but then to also look at some of the issues that may have arisen and say, okay, we succeeded in this way, but what are the other things we can pull apart from these victories so that we can be even more ferocious as we go into the second round?
More ferocious. Yeah. You said it. We've got an identity, which has got us all absolutely buzzing, right? Knicks fans, we wrap. Highlights over and over and over again and appreciate what we've achieved, but the work isn't done yet, man. We've got a long way to go still. We watched the close of the Heat Bucks game, and our next opponent awaits. CT and EJ ready to bring you that Knicks content, but it's been an absolute pleasure. This season's going to continue buzzing. EJ, what are some thoughts?
Want to shout out everyone in the chat. You made a decision to join us here as Nick Buzz. You are a buzzer. You are representing some of the best content, representing the orange and the blue. So we want to just shout you out. Thank you so much for choosing us. Do us a favor. Please smash the like, subscribe, and share. Share this with someone who you love. We know that there's a lot of creators out there, and we're not knocking what they do, but what we try to do is create quality, honest, and intelligent content for you, because we love the orange and the blue. Keep repping the Knicks. Keep repping your boys, CT and EJ. Thank you so much, Knicks Buzz family. CT?
We here.
Oh yeah, we here.
We here. We here. Peace.